I hate to admit it, but I actually have one of those Billy Bass fish that sings, "Don't worry, be happy." It's one of the songs he sings. The other one is "Take me to the river, drop me in the water." I couldn't resist. Mary Pettibone Poole said, "He who laughs, lasts." And the truth is that laughter, humor, gives us the ability to ride out some of the rougher periods of life. It keeps our mind flexible, keeps us kind of in the flow of things. So this month, as you already heard, our theme is humor. And you may be asking, what does humor have to do with our overarching theme, which is who are you called to be? And the truth is that sometimes we can take our spiritual practice way too seriously. We can take all of this so seriously, and that sometimes we work so hard at being who we're called to be, and we work so hard at our spiritual practice that we forget to lighten up a little. We forget to laugh, to step back. Teilhard de Chardin, the Jesuit priest and paleontologist, said that joy is the infallible sign of the presence of God. So spiritual life, spiritual practice should include joy and fun. Some of the benefits of humor are it keeps our minds flexible. It opens our imagination and creativity, and it gives us distance so that we can see things from another perspective. And I think that this is what Jesus was referring to when he said in the book of Matthew, chapter 5:39, he said, "I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other cheek also." Now, when we read this at face value, it's a little strange as far as the scripture goes. I get the whole nonviolence thing, but still, if someone slaps you, then turn the other one. It sounds like Jesus is asking us to be victims or, to be enablers and codependent and all of that, and yet when we're faced with that situation, what do? Do we hit back? He's saying turn the other cheek. And I think what he means by that is look at it from a different perspective. So if somebody is bugging you, if you're frustrated and you're in a real difficult situation, turn the other cheek and see it from a different level. And humor is one of the ways that we are able to turn the other cheek. So that said, I thought that we could start with a little humor from church bulletins. And these are things that were actually taken from church bulletins. The first is, the sermon this morning, Jesus walks on the water. The sermon tonight, searching for Jesus. The second, a bean supper will be held on Tuesday evening in the church hall. Music will follow. And the last, at the evening service tonight, the sermon topic will be, "What is hell? Come early and listen to our choir practice." John Morrell is the founder of International Society for Humor Studies, and he's also written a number of books on humor. And he shares a story about his son who was probably about 8 years old. And his son had pneumonia, and his son was home sick from school. And he tells a story because, we don't all see the same things as funny. And sometimes we're in something and we can't see the humor in it. But sometimes when we get distance from it, we can look back and we can see that, some things are funny. So for some of us, we're having a deep tragedy, and other, we're having a high comedy. So in this example, his son was home from school because he was sick, but he was getting better. And he was sitting opening a bunch of cards that his classmates had sent him. And he's smiling and kind of happy. And then he's reading one and he starts to cry. And his father said, what's wrong? What happened? And he looks at the letter, and it says this. It says, his son's name is Jordan. He says, "Dear Jordan, I don't want you to know this, but pneumonia can kill you. So get well soon." And then she signs it, "Your friend," but she's little, so she misspelled it, and she says, "You're fried, Allison." So it reads, "Dear Jordan, I don't want you to know this, but pneumonia can kill you, so get well soon. You're fried, Allison." So he starts crying and he's really upset and he goes, Dad, why didn't you tell me that, that I was dying? You should have told me. And then he looks at her artwork and there's flowers and he says, look, one of the flowers is dying and are these flowers in a cemetery? And he's like, Dad, why didn't you tell me that I only had, and while he's telling this story and he's kvetching and he's crying, his mother is laughing so hard that she has to get up and she has to leave the room so as not to upset him, and his dad is biting the inside of his cheek so he doesn't upset his son. And, so we look at this and we go, so what is the story here where the son is having deep tragedy but the parents are having high comedy? And the difference is that the son is in the moment and he cannot see that in 2 weeks from now, because he was healing, he would be fine. He would be opening his presents on Christmas morning. And because his parents were able to see it, because his parents had the distance, they were able to witness the high comedy that was happening in the situation. It is a way of turning the other cheek and seeing it from a different perspective. President Eisenhower said that a sense of humor is part of the art of leadership, of getting along with people and of getting things done. I had no idea that Eisenhower was funny, did you? I don't know, never saw it. And the truth is you can get a lot done that you can't get done when you're being overly serious. And there isn't anything that's much more serious than a collection agency, right? You get those threatening letters, those threatening calls, ay, ay, ay. And so one of the employees who worked for a collection agency got a rubber stamp, and she would stamp the invoices and she'd send it out. And she actually saved the company thousands of dollars with just the statement that was on the rubber stamp because people sent their money in. And I want to read to you what the stamp said. Hello there. I'm the company computer. So far, only I know that you haven't been making regular payments on your account. However, if I don't process a payment from you within 10 days, I will have to tell a human. So the truth is that more people paid on their accounts than those receiving threatening letters because it's looking at it from a different perspective. It's coming at it from a different perspective. It is turning the other cheek. Now, Herb Keller is the founder and former CEO of Southwest Airlines. He said that when he was hiring employees, the number one quality that he looked for in people is a sense of humor. He said, I'm looking for a sense of humor because everything else can be taught, but that needs to come in. But he also said that this is his philosophy around his treatment of his employees, and I want to share that with you. He said it's important to him that all employees are treated with honor, respect, that they're cared for, that they're protected, and to reward all of the employees regardless of their title or their position, that every single person is entitled to honor, respect, and care, regardless of their position in the company. What he found is that if he treated his employees this way, they treated each other this way with honor and respect, and guess what? They treated their customers with honor and respect as well. And when I look at this, really what he's doing is he's practicing loving kindness. He's practicing loving kindness with humor on a corporate level. It's amazing. So I don't know how many of you have flown Southwest, but I used to fly it a lot when I would be flying to Kansas City. And I did find that most of the employees were pretty funny. And the one that stands out in my mind is a flight attendant at the beginning of the flight. Annette got on the speaker and he said, okay, I have a special announcement today, and that is we have a very special person on the flight with us today. It is a gentleman who is celebrating his 100th birthday with us, and believe it or not, it is his first flight ever. So let's all give a round of applause to our captain. And what he did when he did that is we all just joined together. We were no longer all strangers on a plane. We all kind of connected in some way through the humor. Southwest Airlines got into a dispute with Stephen Aviation over a similar slogan use back in the 90s. Stephen Aviation had a slogan that said, "We're just plain smart," and then Southwest Airlines started using "just plain smart." So they went from plain smart to just plain smart. But Stephen Aviation had been using it for a year, so they called Southwest and they said, "You have to cease and desist using this slogan because it's ours." So, in a way of turning the other cheek, they decided to approach it from a different level. Instead of going to court and litigation and spending thousands of dollars and how many years in court, the CEOs decided to have an arm wrestling contest in an arena, and it was called Malice in Dallas. Herb Keller came in smoking his cigarettes, and he had little airline bottles of wild turkey. He was 61 years old. Stephen's aviation CEO was in his 30s. And so they sold tickets. They were in this big arena. They had an arm wrestling contest. And well, guess what? The guy in his 30s won. But it was so much fun that he said, "You know what? You can keep the slogan. You can have it. It doesn't matter." And the thing is, they had fun, and they raised $15,000 for charity. They took a serious and litigious situation where they could have spent years in court and thousands of dollars on something fun. They turned the other cheek. They saw it from a different perspective. I think the art of joke telling has been lost since the onset of the internet, because it used to be people would turn around to each other and tell each other stories and jokes, and now they're emailed to us or they're put on Facebook. And what a joke does is it leads us along a path, and then when the punchline comes in, we find ourselves on another path that we didn't expect to be on. And this is surprising, it's delightful, and it engages us in our imaginations and creative thinking. So, I want to share with you a joke. So a burglar broke into a house one night, and he had his flashlight, and he's looking around for valuables. And while he's looking around for valuables, he hears a voice, and the voice says, "Jesus knows you're here." And he turns off his flashlight, and he stands, and he freezes for a minute, and he looks around, and he waits. Nothing. Okay, so he goes about again, looking for valuables, figures out he's fine. So he pulls the stereo out, and he's starting to unwrap the wires, and clear as a bell, he hears, "Jesus is watching you." Well, now he's really freaked out, so he gets his light out again, and he starts looking around the room to find out where the voice is coming from, and off in the corner, he sees a parrot sitting in a cage. And he says to the parrot, "Did you say that?" And the parrot says, "Yep. I'm just trying to warn you that he is watching you." And the burglar was like, "Warn me, really? Who in the world are you?" "Moses," says the bird. "Moses," the burglar says. "What kind of people would name a bird Moses?" And the parrot says, "The kind of people who would name a Rottweiler Jesus." Oh, boy. So you see what it does. You're down one path, and then you're on another, yeah? The truth is that living with children and living with animals can be a great source of joy. I know living with pets can be like living with cartoon characters. We had a raccoon in the yard recently. He's a big 25-pound one. He's huge. And, of course, we were concerned for the dog and the cat, so we got a trap. And the very next day, we caught our cat, Hari. We reset the trap. The next day, we caught the dog, Geo. And then finally, we did actually catch the raccoon, and we set him free in the wilderness. But living with kids and animals can be a source of joy because children have a way of seeing life that the rest of us don't see. They have this freshness about them. And I'll never forget being with Caroline when she was about 2 or 3 years old in Chicago. And now she moved here when she was 6 weeks old into Seattle. It's the only reality she knows, the rain, the clouds, this is her life. And so we're in Chicago, and we're on the highway, and she's sitting in the back seat, and it's a nice clear day. And as we're driving down the highway, she looks up and she points out the window and she goes, "Look, Mommy, it's a full moon." Now, it was 3 in the afternoon. I said, "Caroline, it's called the sun." It was a very sad day. So it's true that she who laughs, lasts. When life gets too serious, when you're met with a challenging and maybe a frustrating situation or person, I invite you to turn the other cheek. Ask yourself, is there a way to see this differently? Herb Keller ran Southwest Airlines on the principle of humor, but behind it was loving kindness. Humor can give us distance, mental flexibility, and a more powerful imagination. So in closing, I just want to share with you 2 more words from a Sunday bulletin. The Low Self-Esteem Support Group will meet Thursday at 7 p.m. Please use the back door. And the last one, ladies, don't forget the rummage sale. It's a chance to get rid of those things not worth keeping around the house. Bring your husbands.